So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cédric Lamorinière. I work for Amadeus, and I come from France. And today I'm here to present you some work that we are doing in order to provision a Redis cluster inside Kubernetes thanks to the service catalog extension. So currently I work in the team responsible of our new platform as a service called Amadeus Cloud Services, and this platform is based on OpenShift, that is a Kubernetes distribution from Red Hat. And Amadeus provides IT services for travel industry customers. In 2016, we processed more than 600 million bookings thanks to our distribution solution. And we have boarded more than 1.3 billion passengers thanks to our IT solution. And all of this was made possible thanks to our infrastructure that can handle an average of 450,000 queries per second. So we are quite a young Redis user. It's only 2 years that we are using Redis, and 1 year for some application in production. Our main use case is to offload some user session inside Redis, and this enables us to move some application in a cloud environment. So for that, we open sourced last year, and we presented during this conference the HTTP Session Replacer. This is a Java framework that is the migration of session inside Redis. Since we are moving our application inside the cloud environment, so in OpenShift, we wanted also to operate Redis and with the Redis cluster feature inside the same environment. And so we have developed a Redis operator that aims to operate properly a Redis cluster inside the Kubernetes environment. We choose to configure Redis to work only in memory in order, again, to ease the operation on our Redis cluster. So we have several applications that is already using the services that we build on top of Redis for the user session. Since it's work pretty well and people are happy with the performances of Redis, we have more and more applications that want to use our solution internally. And currently, when an application wants to use a Redis cluster inside our OpenShift cluster, they are getting the Redis operator, and they are instantiated their own Redis operator in their namespaces, and they are after configuring the Redis cluster thanks to this operator. But as I say, since we will have soon more and more internal client, we want now to offer internally a Redis as a service solution with a dedicated support team. And for that, we want now to have a clear separation of concern between the user of the service and the team responsible of running the different Redis clusters. So we was looking at what is available in internet to achieve that, and we found a new initiative called Open Service Broker API. This is a working group composed by several developers from different companies, like Pivotal, Google, IBM, and Red Hat. And the aims of this working group is to offer a new solution to help the delivery of services to applications in a simple and elegant way. And lucky for us, already in the Kubernetes ecosystem, a new project called Service Catalog was using and implementing this Open Service Broker API. And so the rest of this presentation is about how we are using this extension in order to achieve the Redis as a service solution inside Amadeus. So this is the agenda of the rest of the presentation. So let me explain a bit for people that don't know for the moment Open Service Broker API. So the Open Service Broker API defines 4 different players in this environment. So you have the consumer, the catalog, the broker, and the provider. What is defined by the Open Service Broker API is the communication between the catalog and the broker. The consumer will look at the catalog, which services is available, and then he will choose one, and the broker will request to the provider the instantiation of the services. What's bring on top of that the service catalog extension is a mapping between the service broker API and the Kubernetes resource. If you are already a user of Kubernetes, you know that when two processes want to communicate together, they need to go through a Kubernetes resource. And this is a mapping one-to-one between the Open Service Broker API services and resources defined by the service catalog. The two first resources is the two resources that aims for the user to read which services is available on the catalog and which plan is possible for each services. And the two other services is how you request to the service catalog a new instance of your service, and how after for the service binding, how you request the creation of the credential inside your namespace. Then, in terms of components, the service catalog brings two new components inside your Kubernetes cluster. You have first the service catalog API, and then the service catalog controller. The new way of extending Kubernetes now is to create your own API server, and this is what they've done with the service catalog. So the four different resources that I presented before is stored inside the service catalog API. And the controller is a dedicated controller for these resources. Then when you have broker, your broker can be installed inside the Kubernetes cluster or outside. It's not important because the communication between the controller and the broker is not done thanks to the API the Kubernetes resources, but directly with the REST services that is defined by the Open Service Broker API. And then you have the provider. This is not really important because the controller don't communicate directly with the provider. It's always done through a broker, and that's why this service catalog implementation is completely generic for any broker that you have, since they implement properly the Open Service Broker API. And so when a user wants to interact with the service catalog, for example, to list the available services, it will go through like any other request to the API server, the standard from Kubernetes, and this request will be forwarded to the service catalog API server. In terms of workflow, when a user wants a new service, what he needs to list which services is available in the catalog. So for that, he can do a kubectl get service classes. This is an example of one service class. As you can see here, it's a service class based on a Redis broker. You can see the name of the broker here and some information that you have. You have some external information in order after to communicate with the broker. And you can have other parameters for these service classes. When you have choose one service class, what you need to choose is the plan. So one service can have several plans. So imagine for a hard drive, you can request SSD or a classic hard drive. This is possible through the plan. What you have inside a plan, you have the reference to the previous resources, so to the service classes. And then, again, some other informations like a description for the user to know what means this plan. And you have a set of property that is defined, and this property need to be provided when the user wants at the end create the service instance. So next step is to create the service instance. So you have to choose which service class you want and which service plan links to this one. So this is the two parameters in the spec, and then you provide the value for the different parameters that was defined in the plan. And last things to do. So when the service instance is ready, you can see it in the status of the service instance resources. You need to ask the service binding, and the only information that you need to provide is the service instance reference, and this one is a reference from the previous messages. So behind the scene, you have a lot of communication that is done between the API, the controller, and the service broker. The only thing that I show you is the left part. So thanks to the service catalog, we saw that we are able to have a generic way to request services inside the Kubernetes cluster. The second need that we wanted to achieve thanks to the service catalog is the isolation and the separation of content between the user and the team responsible of operating the Redis cluster. And this is achieved thanks to a segregation of permission thanks to the namespace inside the Kubernetes cluster. So usually in your company, when you want to limit the access of a team, you will limit the access to one namespace. And this is what is represented here. The 3 green box is representing a namespace. So you have the namespace for the application, the namespace for the operation team that is managing Redis. And it's in the middle, you have a namespace for the different process that compose the service catalog. So when an application needs a new service, Redis cluster, it will create a service instance inside its namespace. We don't need to have any permission to request it in another namespace. The controller will send a request to the Redis broker, and the Redis broker will request to the provider to create the instance. If the provider is also inside the same namespace, the cluster will be created in the Redis team namespace. Then, second step, create the service binding. In this case, the controller will request to the Redis broker to provide him some credential, and it is the controller who will create the secret with the credential information inside the application namespace. And so, thanks to that, when the application will start a pod, it will be able to mount this secret inside this pod, get the credential information, and target the cluster that is running in another namespace. And like this, in any moment, the application team needs some specific permission to talk with the broker or to talk with any other process that is not running in his namespace. At the end, when the application can be deleted, when we delete the service binding, the secret will be automatically deleted. And after, for the service instance, it will cascade to the broker the deletion of the cluster. In Amadeus, we are running a Redis cluster in an OpenShift environment. And for that, we have built a Redis operator. I presented it last year during this conference. And really, the aim of it is to operate Redis cluster in a Kubernetes environment. And so it manages for us the Kubernetes resource. It will request the creation of pod and services. And then it will connect to the different Redis process in order to have the proper configuration, so to have the number of master and slaves that was requested, and also to spread the slots on the different master. So for that, we are using a common pattern in a Kubernetes ecosystem. So we are using a custom resource definition that represents each Redis cluster instance. And this is an example. So in specification, what you need to provide is the number of master, the replication factor. The replication factor is in fact the number of slaves by master. And then you provide the pod template. And one of these containers that is in pod template is a Redis process. We choose to provide the possibility to put the pod template here. It's because like this, the application can choose how many memory you want to allow to each pod, and also how many CPU. And if you want, for example, to monitor your Redis cluster with Prometheus, you can add the Redis exporter also in the pod template. So the Redis operator is running like an application inside a Kubernetes cluster. And so when one user creates the Redis cluster custom resource with the kubectl command, automatically the operator will detect activity on the resource Redis cluster. It will compute internally how many pods he needs to request to Kubernetes to start. those pods will be started and spread around the different Kubernetes nodes. The service will be created on top of the Redis pods, and then the operator will reconfigure properly the different Redis process in order to assign roles to each of them. If the user updates the definition of the custom resource, like he wants to scale up the cluster, he will change the value in the specification, and automatically the operator will define which modification need to be done on the cluster, so he will request more pods or change it. The operator also operate some check on each Redis node. So if, for instance, a pod die or a Redis process is killed, the operator will automatically request a new pod creation and reconfigure again the cluster in order to limit the impact for the client. So now, since we wanted to use service catalog and we already have our Redis operator, we decided to use as provider or Redis operator. And this slide will explain how we want that the Redis broker interact with the Redis operator in order to still use what we already built for our Redis operator. So now, instead of asking the application to create directly the Redis cluster custom resource, it will create the service instance, like it is the case when we use the service catalog. So he will choose the correct service classes and the service plan that he wants to do. Provide also the parameters that may needed for the plan. The controller will send this request through the Open Service Broker API to our Redis broker. And this time, the broker will create for you the definition of the custom resource Redis cluster. So we will generate the pod template that is corresponding to the plan and also to the option that you put. So it will set the resource limit for the memory, for the CPU, also add some additional container if needed. And then, without any code change for the Redis operator will detect the creation of a new custom resource Redis cluster and will start to compute and request resources to Kubernetes. So like this, the user don't need anymore to know how to build the pod template for the Redis cluster. You only need to give some parameter inside the service classes that corresponding to the plan. And since the Redis broker and the Redis operator are operated by the same team, we decided to put everything in the one process. And when you think about it, it just means that we offer to the operator the interface of the Open Service Broker API. So like this, we are completely synced between the version of the broker and the operator. So at the end, what the user needs to do when you want to create a new Redis cluster inside our PaaS is only to create this service instance, referencing the service class service plan, and provide the different parameters. Some of parameter is the same that in the custom resource, like the number of master and the replication factor. But after, you have also, for example, the size, the memory size that you want for each node. And last step is to request the service binding. So this is generic for any services that is created thanks to the service catalog in Kubernetes. So let's see a demo of it. So for the demo, I will use OpenShift. So that I say OpenShift behind the scene is a Kubernetes cluster. So I will log first as admin. Okay. So what you can see in OpenShift, they completely integrated the service catalog. You have in the UI, so you have a nice view of all the services that is available in OpenShift through the service catalog. And here is the services that is provided by our Redis operator, so Redis Broker Services. So I'm logged in this project. So RAS team means Redis as a service team. And what we can see here, we have only one application running, and it's our Redis operator. If I go at pod level, I can see, maybe I can increase a bit the policy. Okay, like this. So to simulate the interaction that a developer will have, I go to another browser and be logged as a developer. So in this case, I have less privileges, so I have access only to my project. We can see here I have nothing that is currently running in this namespace, so I will browse the catalog. So the purpose of the demo is to show that before creating my application, I will need to request a Redis cluster. So let's go here. I select the service class corresponding to the service broker. So since I only have one plan, I will not see the selection of which plan I want for this service class. This is a parameter that is proposed in the plan. So let's change the name, redisconf. The number of master, and the replication factor. Then you can choose if you want to create automatically the binding or not. For demo purpose, I will select the second option. So it's not the creation of the cluster takes some time, so that's why it was. You can see that we need to come back a bit later. So here I can see the status is not yet ready. If I come back on the other browser, the admin view, I can see that the new pods are created, and this is corresponding to the different Redis nodes that is instantiated by the operator. So custom resource is not well integrated in the UI for the moment, so I cannot show you what the Redis cluster topology. But for that, we have built on top of the kubectl command line or the OpenShift command line a plugin. And here you can see, maybe I can a bit increase the size. You can see the status of the Redis cluster. So you have the name that I put in parameter, the number of pods, the status, the op status. This is the status returned by the Redis operator. And the Redis status is the status returned when you interrogate the Redis node. And then you have the number of matter that is currently running and the replication factor. So if you look at pods level, you have 3, 4, 6. 6 is mean on the right how many pods that it requested to Kubernetes. 5 is the running pods, and 4 is the pods that is already ready. Then you have the number of master. 3 is the requested value, and this is the current value. We still need to wait a bit to have all pods ready. For the replication, it's a bit different. So 1 is the value that is requested, and you have the min and max. Okay. So now, since we have six pods already, and all of other values are correct, we can come back. To here. We can see that we have our 6 pods that is running. Here, if I go here, I can see now the status of my services is ready also. So next step is to create the binding. So for that, in the UI, I have a direct link. Okay, binding created. I can see the secret here with the information. So the only information that is needed to connect to this Redis cluster is only the service name. So I will just copy paste the name of the secret here. Come back here. Now I will instantiate an application. So the application is really empty box, is only to show you that it's possible after to target the Redis cluster. So the only parameter that I need to give to my application is the name of the credential, and like this, I will be able to mount this secret as a volume inside my application. Okay, my pod is ready. And I will increase a bit the size. So now I open a terminal inside my application, so inside the container. And what I have here, I have in fact it's a Redis container. So I can do Redis SVC, cluster info. And what I can see is that I'm connected to a cluster with a size 3, so 3 master with 6 nodes. So the other are slave, cluster nodes. And here, what I can see, I have the 3 master and the 3 slave. And the Redis server is working properly. So quite simple to use a service that was instantiated. So behind the scene, to know how it works, in fact, let's show you the definition of the pods. So what you can see here, I have my environment variable that I put as host for the Redis CLI is coming, in fact, from a secret. This is the name of the secret that I provided in the template of my application. And I take after the service name as a key, as a value for my variable, my environment variable. So last step that I want to show you is when you don't need anymore this application. So let's delete this application. Okay, I don't have it here anymore. So I can delete the binding. So you need to choose which bindings. I only create one, but if you have several pods, for example, that are using the same services inside your namespace, you can create one bindings by pods type. Okay. And last things, I can delete the service instance. So delete here. So I have nothing running here, and if I go here, I can see that all the pod corresponding to this service instance is currently terminating. So the operator is cleaning the Redis cluster that was created. So that's it for the demo. I hope it was clear. So some key takeaways of this presentation. So what we wanted to achieve is to ease the provisioning of a Redis cluster for our user, and also to have a clear separation of concern now between the user of the service and the team that will be responsible of operating the Redis cluster. So if a new version of Redis is coming, or we need to put a security patch on it, we don't want to request the application to change the custom resource definition of the Redis cluster themselves. It will be the dedicated team that will handle it. What we saw also in this presentation is the service catalog is quite extendable. It's very easy to create your own service broker. And also the way that is defined, like you can define every parameter that you want in the service plan, really is the fact that you can extend and correspond to any services that you want. If you are not able to put some parameter in some option in parameter, it means that maybe you ask too much detail to your application to run the services. So some links. So the first link is the open source version of our Redis operator. We open sourced it last week. So this is the version 2 of the operator that we built. The version 1 was done 2 years ago, and it didn't use custom resource definition. So this one, we rebuilt it from scratch with the knowledge that we have accumulated during 2 years. It's not production ready, but we are now working on it, and we will start to use it in production soon. Then the second link is the Open Service Broker API working group site. You can look at it and have more data about how it works and what is really the interest for you to work with it. And the last links is the service catalog GitHub repo. It's where you can find the command, the instruction to install this service catalog inside your Kubernetes cluster or OpenShift. So thank you. Thank you. And if you have any question, I'm pleased to answer it. Yeah. Thank you.
How do you expect clients to react to service changes? As far as I understand, you're using the service for initial discovery only, and then clients actually connect to the internal IPs of the service node on the service platform. But then completely disconnects. Thank you. So I'll repeat. I was wondering how clients would react to changes in Kubernetes service, because as far as I understand, you're using service for initial discovery only, and later clients, once they discover the cluster, they lock on to the internal IPs and actually use them to communicate with the correct cluster nodes. But then that means that clients are not aware of Kubernetes manipulating the service itself, for example, migrating service between internal networks, which can change all the IPs completely in one shot. How did you work around those issues?
So currently we don't. It's what I show you. It's a prototype, and it's what you mean that if the service name change inside the secrets, after we are not able to, the client are not able to target anymore the Redis cluster. This is what you mean, or it maybe.
So we tried to do something very similar, and we stopped based on the fact that we felt we were going against Kubernetes network protocols, because we were basically connecting to the internal nodes directly using IP, because that's Redis. That's the Redis way. And the only way that we could find around it is to create a service per pod, rather than a single service. But that complicated the whole other bunch of things, and then we dropped that basically and went for other solutions.
So just to repeat a bit the question for other people, is that how we manage the fact that we have an indirection maybe with the network inside Kubernetes and with the different Redis nodes. So in fact, inside we use the DNS feature of Kubernetes that resolve one IP, and we are configuring the Kubernetes services on top of the Redis nodes as without the routing, in fact. And so the client only target one Redis nodes, and after he will get the topology of the cluster from one of the Redis nodes. And for us, it work properly. Like if when a new pod is appearing, we have a new IP, and after the client is enough intelligent to get the new topology of the cluster. This is so you need to have a proper Redis client that can update this topology each time the topology change. But
you basically cannot use NAT, right? You cannot mount this inside. You cannot use NAT. You cannot basically mount this inside Minikube, for example.
So this is running in Minikube, in Minishift. It's everything is running inside the Kubernetes cluster. Okay. For applications that want to connect to this Redis cluster outside Kubernetes, we use a proxy, and this proxy map in fact hide the topology of the Redis IP inside the Kubernetes cluster.
Is this proxy part of your open source Linkster?
So for the moment, the proxy is not open source. And this is,
Thank you.
yeah. So we maybe in the future, if we will also open source it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if no more questions, thank you. And I'm here to answer other questions if you want. Thank you.